So for those of you that don't know me that well, I am an avid Grand Maju player. I'd consider myself a pretty good one at that. And Grand Maju, it's this card right here that basically it gains 400 attack and defense for each of your banished cards. However, this is a continuous effect, and so question mark monsters actually have 0 original attack on the field. So if the effect is negated by something like an infinite impermanence, Grand Maju's attack will drop to 0 because it can't gain any attack by its effect. I've been forbidden dropleted in the past before. I always thought that Grand Maju would go to 0 attack because forbidden droplet, it halves my Grand Maju's attack and then negates its effect at the same time. So I figured, okay, well, that means its effect is negated. It must have 0 attack. It turns out that that is actually not the case. If I have 10 banished cards and my Grand Maju gets forbidden droplet, it actually has 2,000 attack. And so much to my shock, I realized I don't understand how attack point rulings work, and I really need to freshen up on them. So that's my story. This is Advanced Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulings Made Simple. My name is Yishan, and the title of this video is, so how do attack rulings actually work? And let me tell you, these are some of the most complicated rulings in the entire game. Even if you're an experienced player, you can probably learn some things from this video if you haven't studied up your attack point rulings in a while. So yeah, if you enjoy my content and enjoy videos like this, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment, do all that stuff, turn on the notifications, whatever it is. Okay, so a few disclaimers and shoutouts though before I get into the meat of the video, and I'll make this quick. This stuff is really complicated if you want to cover everything. So in this video, I've just covered stuff that modifies current attack. There's also stuff that modifies original attack, and there's a whole host of other things, but this is like the basic rulings that like if you understand this video, you'll understand like 90% of attack modifier rulings. If there's a lot of interest in this video, and this video does well, I will also make a part 2 that covers the more like crazier details, like I should say, more confusing details. But if we're just talking about current attack modifiers, not original attack modifiers, it's about like 90% of the rulings you'll encounter in games. I also have a huge shout out to Hunter Landis. If you are interested in actually like really learning the deep details of this stuff, he wrote in a fantastic article, which I will have linked in the description. I think it's part of a Facebook group, so you might have to join the Facebook group, but it is really a great article. And it basically goes through everything that you would want to know about attack modifiers. But that stuff is pretty hard to read, especially if you're a newer player. It cannot make sense at all to you. So I'm here to break it down for you. Okay. So there are 2 main types of attack modifiers. Okay. And it's the idea that there's a lingering type of attack modifier and a continuous type. And so I've got 2 examples here. A Forbidden Lance is in the lingering category. So what does lingering mean? And this is a key point because if you don't take away anything else from this video, at least I'll have taught you something. So you can identify lingering effects by asking yourself this question. If the card was not on the field, would its effects still be applying? And if the answer is yes, what you're most likely looking at is a lingering effect. So for example, Forbidden Lance, even if the card leaves the field, it will still apply that 800 attack loss, right? There are a lot of cards like True Draco Apocalypse. There are a bunch of there's like a UA field spell. Like they modify attack and they specifically state that if the card leaves the field, you still apply the effect. That's how you know that that's a lingering effect. So key point right here. That's why I really want to hammer this in. Most effects you can consider lingering in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because once they've been applied, they cannot be negated. They cannot be made unaffected. They're basically going to apply until some sort of other attack modifier comes in, and we'll get to that. The other type is the continuous. Continuous is simpler. It's basically the opposite of lingering. If the card would leave the field, and its effect would stop applying. So for example, in Fire Formation Tenki's case, I'm talking about the 100 attack boost. If Tenki leaves the field, you're not going to get the 100 attack boost. That's how you can tell that it is a continuous effect. So really important stuff. You want to get this stuff hammered down. Continuous effects can be negated even after they've already been applying. Like for example, Imperial Order will negate a Fire Formation Tenki's effect even after you've activated it. So those are the 2 main types of attack modifiers. And then there are 2 kinds of actions they can perform. So, okay, that's what the 2 things you need to understand. So 2 times 2. We've got 2 main types of modifiers and 2 kinds of actions they perform for a total of 4 specific types of cards. Like we have 4 categories in this video. 2 times 2, basically. One of them is add or subtract. It's pretty simple. Either, like for example, Alistar, you can discard it, give your fusion monster 1,000 attack. So that's a addition or subtraction. And we have forbidden droplet. So like something like halving. If you have or you set a monster's attack to 2, like set this monster's attack to 0, or change it to half, or double it. These are considered freezing effects, right? You set your monster, you set that attack for that monster instead of trying to add 1,000 or subtract 1,000. So those are the two main effects. Okay, so those are the two main actions they can perform. So let's start with the easy stuff. Okay, basic addition and subtraction. So I've got basically I've got this luminous spark, which is a field spell. It gives light monsters 500 attack points. We have a Phantom Knight's Wing. It gives monster 500 attack points. The other effects are irrelevant, right? I just want to show you the difference between the continuous addition and the lingering addition. So notice how Phantom Knight's Wing, the 500 attack boost will stay even if Phantom Knight's Wing leaves the field. So that's how you know that's a lingering addition type effect. So it falls into that first category. We have the continuous addition or subtraction. From the Luminous Spark, which is a field spell, so it's got to remain face up so we know it's continuous, right? So two different kinds here. We got a lingering addition, a continuous addition. They both add 500, so Mecha Ball will be at a total of 3,500 attack. So that makes sense, right? When it's just adding and subtracting, it's relatively straightforward, right? The weird stuff gets into this freezing effect. So Forbidden Droplet is a lingering freeze, right? If Forbidden Droplet leaves the field, it'll still be able to apply its effect that turn. So we know it's a lingering freeze category. So how does this work? Well, how freeze works basically is that it immediately, no matter what, it just cuts the attack in half. We don't do any modifiers after. So it's just going to cut the attack in half, basically. So that makes sense, right? We have some attack. We cut it in half. We don't reapply anything on a lingering freeze, right? So we don't try to reapply continuous effects. We don't like continuous modifiers that we had previously. We don't try to apply like the Luminous Spark or the Phantom Knight's Wing again. We don't do any of that. We just have it and it stays there. Okay, but here's an interesting question: is what happens when Forbidden Droplet wears off at the end of turn? Mecha, does it go to 3,000 or 3,500? Now, I had the answer here already. It actually goes back to 3,000. So why is that? Why is it some weird 3,000 number and not 3,500? Okay, well, here's the rule. Okay, we're going to break down the rule. So a lingering freeze, this is one of the harder ones. Remember, freezes are a little more confusing. Removes all lingering effects as soon as it starts applying, right? And they don't reapply. That's key. They don't reapply. So no matter what we've done, if we've added a bunch of attack to this Mecha, the moment it gets frozen, we don't reapply the lingering effects, even after the lingering freeze wears off. Okay, so they don't apply after it wears off. Continuous effects are also removed, right? But they do reapply after the freeze has worn off. So continuous effects will be reapplied. The lingering effects will not. So after a freeze, though, however, you can still add and subtract stuff like normal. Like, like if you freeze a monster's attack with Forbidden Droplet, you can still buff it with like Axe of Despair. It'll gain that 1,000 attack after its current attack. So that's how that works. Okay, so let's go back to our original example, which is the crazy example here we have in the beginning, which is Forbidden Droplet versus Grand Maju. So remember, Grand Maju is a continuous effect to gain attack, right? But when we activate Forbidden Droplet, we freeze its attack and remove. Remember, we remove both the lingering and the continuous effects. We remove those. We don't care about them anymore. So Grand Module will go from 4,000 to 2,000, and its effect will be negated. However, it'll still have 2,000 attack because we don't care about the continuous effect anymore. That is sort of the crazy thing about this, right? Even though its effect feels negated, it's not quite right. Grand Module will actually have 0 defense because the defense was not frozen. And its effect is negated, so it'll just basically become half its current attack. So that's why that works, right? So remember I had this question at the beginning. I just wanted to explain it to you and make sure we touched back on that. Okay, so that's that. So we've covered 3 categories of cards actually at this point. We've covered the lingering freeze. We've covered the lingering addition / subtraction effect. We've covered the continuous addition / subtraction effect. So we're missing one. We're missing the continuous freeze. Okay, so that's our 4th type of card here. These are much rarer, but I wanted to include it in this video. Okay, and so the continuous freeze is just like the lingering freeze, except continuous effects are reapplied right away. Remember, so Dark World Jackals, the equipped monster cannot attack. Also, its attack and defense become, so that's a word for freeze because we're just setting it to a certain value, right? We're freezing at that value. its attack and defense become 100, right? How do we know this is continuous freeze? Because, like I said, remember, what's the key here? If a card would leave the field and still apply its effects, it's a lingering effect. If not, if it would stop applying its effects, it's a continuous effect. So that's how we know Dark World Shackles is a continuous effect. Okay, continuous freeze. So it's the exact same thing as a lingering freeze, except continuous effects get applied right away. So we apply the Dark World Shackles to the Gren Maju with 10 banished cards. Gren Maju becomes 100, but then immediately the continuous effect applies right away. So it gains another 4,000 attack. It'll be at 4,100. It still gets rid of all those lingering effects. And then after the continuous freeze goes away, the lingering effects won't be reapplied. It's only the continuous effects that get applied right away. Okay, so let's do an example here. If we activate the Luminous Spark, then Phantom Knight's Wing, then the continuous freeze effect, what would the attack of Invoked Mechaba be? Okay, I'll give you a few seconds. You can pause the video. And the answer is the attack would be 600, right? Because remember, the Luminous Spark is our continuous effect. The continuous freeze gets rid of all the lingering effects, but does not get rid of the continuous effect. So we get 100 plus 500. That's how I get 600. Okay, so that is the 4 types of cards. If you understand this stuff, and you might have to watch this video again, you'll basically understand 90% of the attack point modifier rulings, especially when it comes to current attack. But this stuff is really difficult, so if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to let me know if you want the part 2 with even more rulings. This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? But it should cover most of your rulings for now. Forbidden Droplets is a really popular card. A card I didn't get to talk about in this video is Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, which is an extremely common card and has a lot of rulings associated, and it is related to original attack. So that's going to be probably, I need to be a whole nother video. I didn't want to make this one too long. But yeah, what did you guys think? Did this make sense to you guys? I hope you guys learned something new. I try to make these videos very educational. And until next time, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.